From Mamamia, welcome to The Spill, your daily pop culture fix. I'm Laura Brodnick.
And I'm Ksenia Lukic.
And coming up on the show today, people were devastated and betrayed when they found out that Liam Neeson and Pamela Anderson had potentially been faking their romance for PR. We've had some new developments for the story, so we're going to jump into that. Plus, this year, Katy Perry has been one of the most hated women in the world, but she's had a little redemption arc that no one is talking about, and we're going to get into that. But first, a little romance to kick us off.
I love a little bit of romance.
So over the weekend, it was announced that actress Chloë Grace Moretz had married her long-term partner, Kate Harrison. And this news came via Vogue in a beautiful spread of the two now wives, both having their dress fitting with Louis Vuitton. So Chloë, who's an actress I feel like has just been on our screens. Like, I can't even remember the first time I saw her. It was probably in Kick-Ass.
Yeah, that was kind of, that was like her big breakout role. She was like 13 at the time when Kick-Ass came out, and she's just been a real constant.
Yes.
You know, always working, always doing something, but not like a super, super duper A-lister, but we know she's there. She's always working.
Yeah, she's like kind of became, she was like a huge child actor and then did a lot of comedy movies and things like Bad Neighbors 2, that sort of thing. A lot of those kind of like teen movies, those like dystopian action movies like The Fifth Wave. Did some like stuff with Johnny Depp and like Dark Shadows. I think her latest show, The Peripheral, was her last kind of big role. But yeah, has always been around since she was a child. And she and Kate only announced their engagement, I think it was just over a year ago, but they've been together for nearly 7 years, but just keeping their relationship out of the spotlight. So the first we heard of this wedding was Vogue sharing these videos of the two now wives going into the Louis Vuitton studio, and they were having both their bridal looks to walk down the aisle done and their after party looks. And they wanted to keep that little bit of tradition of not seeing each other's dresses or looks or anything until they were walking down the aisle. So it was really cute watching the Vogue video and seeing it, the sort of camera go between the two rooms where they were both getting their dresses made secretly.
So Nicolas Gasquet did both of the looks. They both had 2 looks each. Chloe's first look was this beautiful powder blue. Oh my God. I'm obsessed with it. Like, I don't think I've ever seen like a powder blue bridal gown before, but she even had a blue veil.
Yeah.
I just think she looked so beautiful and so happy. And then Kate was a little bit more traditional with like a sort of strapless embroidered beaded gown. But I think this is obviously they're going to do all of the wedding photos. They'll do a Vogue spread when that comes out. But yeah, just stunning seeing that little sneak peek of them sort of really loved up, even though they weren't in the room together. You could just see how excited they were.
Yeah, it was funny because Chloe is a fashion girl, but not one of those fashion girlies who's sort of, I guess, like everyone copies her looks and things. It's more under the radar. And that blue dress is because one of the first times she worked with Louis Vuitton, they did a bit of a blue for her for this dress that she wore to an event. And she always thought that, she said, I was never the girl who pictured a wedding dress, but I always thought like if I was going to have a really special dress, it would be in that blue. I liked it. It was kind of like Elsa because it was like a straight kind of down with the ruffles and the blue veil. It was kind of like Elsa from Frozen meets Cinderella, but like in a cool girl fashion way. And then she had a cowboy hat for the after party because they were trying to have all these little, I'm like newly obsessed with them as a couple. Like I knew they were together, but they're so private that I just didn't have anything to latch onto in a really parasocial way. And now I do. She had the cowboy hat on because they love horseback riding and they were going to do line dancing at the reception. So that was a little nod to that. And I'm just so glad that this girl has found her like happily ever after because, you know, she dated Brooklyn Beckham for like 5 years. And I think she had a pretty shit time with that boy.
Well, yeah, I think that's probably why she's kept this relationship so private, is because her relationship with Brooklyn Beckham, which was, I think, 2014, 2019. So they did date for quite a while. And there was so much public scrutiny around it. She was constantly being papped. And I think that the way that relationship played out when she finally did start her relationship with Kate, it was like, let's keep this on the down low. She didn't even really quote unquote come out until she endorsed Kamala Harris. But she was like, it was kind of like an open secret. She just never felt like she needed to actively come out.
Yeah, and I think it is because the Brooklyn stuff. I mean, that was when, I mean, she's obviously still famous now, but that was at the height of a lot of her movies coming out. It was when Brooklyn was starting to be a bit of a celebrity in his own right. And I just like every time she talked about him publicly, which she rarely did, but she would also refer to him as that boy, which I think is kind of like at the time she kind of knew he was a bit of a douche. Like he had good intentions, but she was sort of talking about him wanting to be a sports player and wanting to be a chef. Like I think she was the first person to realize that he had no sort of like career ambition. But yeah, they broke up and got back together about 3 or 4 times. And there was that time, like I'm sure it's all innocent young love, but there was that time when he was pictured with like a French model at a party, and then he posted the photo, and then they broke up, and then they got back together, and then she spoke about him publicly for the first time on Watch What Happens Live, and then they broke up again. It was one of those things where it's like just in this cycle where they couldn't break out of it, and every time they had a breakup, the headlines went everywhere.
From what I can tell, she does seem to be more of a private person, and as we know, she's been on screens since she was like 13. She says that these paps, all of this media attention gave her a lot of anxiety because as you're growing up, you're going through puberty. We know this with child stars. That is a lot of pressure to put on someone. So to see her, she does seem a lot more comfortable in this relationship than I see in the photos of her with her in Brooklyn, obviously because now she's come out as gay, and I think that this is just such a lovely set of photos and videos, and it just made me really happy, made me so warm and fuzzy. So I'm sure we'll see all of the wedding photos in Vogue later on in the year, but it was a great sneak peek. Okay, so this is the romance that nobody really saw coming, but the rumors between Liam Neeson and Pamela Anderson dating have been circulating and going back and forth for like almost a year now. Now, back in September, Liam Neeson was doing some press and he was talking about filming The Naked Gun and how he said he was deeply in love with Pamela Anderson. And then as the press tour went on, which was sort of earlier on this year, basically the rumors were saying that they're together, they're in love, they were really touchy-feely. Pamela Anderson's kissing Liam on the cheek. And it was just this sort of back and forth of, are they or aren't they? Then it starts to come out that this is a really big PR stunt. So apparently someone told TMZ that they were very aware that this was a PR stunt. Another source said, no, I've seen them kissing on the red carpet somewhere. No, I've seen them holding hands. And it is just this like sources, which we know is sometimes very complicated when you don't hear anything official from, their parties, their, publicity teams. You just hear source says this, source says that. But I think that they are together.
Oh, why do you think that?
Because I want it to be that way.
Yeah, I mean, whether they were together or not, they certainly wanted people to think that during the press cycle. I think just because of like how they would, like if you see the videos of them walking onto the red carpet, they'd be chatting naturally. But once they get in front of the cameras, they would be a bit more touchy-feely and kissy, that sort of stuff, which I guess is fair because you don't want rumors to start that you hate each other. And then they were doing all their sit-down interviews. They would use a lot of a language that would allude to it. But then Liam Neeson himself would get very angry at interviewers who asked them if they were directly together. But I think why people felt so angry and betrayed afterwards is that it came out that they haven't seen each other. Like they filmed the movie, they didn't see each other until the press tour, and now they haven't seen each other since. And it's that lack of like photos or like people knowing that they've been in different cities, the fact that they have been apart is why people think that they're not together anymore and feeling very angry about it.
I don't know why people are angry, but I mean, it's so hard to know. Why would they do it as a PR stunt? Because the movie's done very well.
The movie has done well. And the thing is, like, I just think that people, and I know I always say this, but I just think people think PR stunts happen way more than they actually do. But this is kind of has all the hallmarks of a classic PR stunt. I think sometimes when you can spot people who are really in love and not just doing a PR stunt, if they stay together long after the movie's finished, or if they're like their family and kids are involved and stuff like that. Like I always find it wild that people would think that two celebrities would stay together, travel together, have photos of their family together just to promote a movie they finished working on. When if you know half these celebs, like they'll barely do a press tour. Like they get angry about having to sit in a room for half a day and get paid $1 million. So they're not doing that for a movie that they're not invested in. But I think with Liam and Pamela, like the stakes for this movie movie were so high. Like, in a way, The Naked Gun was one of the most important movies of the year, because what we can tell from how the box office is going now is that Hollywood's really given up on comedy movies and comedy releases in the cinemas, and they've become something that only go to streaming. So The Naked Gun was a really big swing of bringing out this comedy movie, and like, yes, it's got IP that has fans, but I'm going to go out on a ledge and say, like, a lot of consumers aren't huge Naked Gun fans, that they would like be flocking to the cinemas just to see that. So the Pamela and Liam side of it, of people becoming absolutely obsessed with their relationship before the movie, helped the movie do really well.
The original Naked Gun was in 88, and it's Leslie Nielsen. It's like, it was a bit of a cult hit.
Yes.
And quite iconic. So the fact that it was a remake, and someone like Liam Neeson, who hasn't traditionally been a comedy person, but recently we've seen him doing these like more comedic sketches, and I think he actually does that comedy role very, very well. And then Pam Anderson, you know, she hasn't done a lot of film work recently either. So again, the two of them in this movie, maybe it would have shocked a few people seeing just a cover for it. But, you know, I haven't seen the movie yet, which I'm actually quite excited to watch it. But the trailer's hilarious. I think Liam's very funny. And I think, yes, the rumors about them having a relationship would definitely have added publicity around the movie.
Yeah, like it ended up doing quite well. And I think it's one of those movies, like there's been so many movies that have tanked so badly this year, even with really big stars. And it's all to do with the press run, and it's all to do now with getting people to a cinema is the hardest thing. So I think that, like, and I know so many people said to me, like, I cannot believe that Liam Neeson and also Pamela Anderson, like where they are with their careers, the fact they've been famous for decades, that they would be the ones to lead into a PR stunt. But when you look at the fact that they had worked really hard on this movie and that their earnings were tied to how well it did at the box office, and that so many other studios, it was almost like a Bridesmaids situation where other studios are holding their comedy releases to kind of see how The Naked Gun did, and that will kind of set the tone for like if comedies keep going to these big screen releases. Kind of like how when Bridesmaids came out, at the time the director Paul Feig told me that all these studios were waiting to see how that would do, to see if they would greenlight their movies, to see if a female-led comedy, which seems wild to say now, could make money. And so The Naked Gun is kind of that of 2025. So I feel like they would do it for the money. Also, in saying that, maybe they are madly in love and they're just not showing it like crazy. I mean, just this week, actually, I was on this podcast saying that Scooter Braun and Sydney Sweeney were definitely not together. And then today, People magazine has reported that they are dating. So who knows what these crazy celebs are doing?
I would really like to see them together. I think that they are a great little match. And I also am very excited to see more great comedies. I feel like we've really lost a good quality comedy in recent years. You know, we had a great run of them in the sort of 2000s, 2010s, and it's been a while since we've had, you know, just laugh out loud, great comedic cinema.
So I think it's not crazy to go out on a limb and say that it's been a pretty tough year for Katy Perry. And what's really kind of interesting but mostly sad about that is that at the start of this year, this did feel like it was going to be her year. Like, she was talking about how madly in love she was with Orlando Bloom and how happy they were together when she like did interviews at the top of the year. She was talking about how much she was loving being a mother to Daisy Dove Bloom, but also she was releasing this highly anticipated new album. And Katy Perry fans, for which most of us have been fans of her for like well over a decade now, was so excited for this new release. She was winning these kind of like lifetime achievement awards. People knew she was going on a tour. Like, it all should have been her year. And then things kind of quickly fell apart because her first single, Woman's World, got absolutely trashed. Both the song and the video clip. Were you a fan?
No, and I think it was just because a lot of people just said it was just so out of touch.
Yeah. I didn't hate it at the time. Like, when I first heard the song, I was a bit jarred because I thought, oh, and I got to hear it before everyone else because I went to a little listening party. And I did like it, but it just wasn't the sound I was expecting from her. But the more I listened to it, the more I kind of got into it. It just felt like a boppy song that should be playing in the background of a movie or something like that. And then the video clip, it's just like, it was very heavy-handed with like women, like, the best kind of that sort of vibe. Like, it was heavy-handed, but a lot of time had been spent on all the little details and all the little nods and all the little facts and stuff. And I thought like it was maybe unfairly trashed a little bit. And then when the album came out, that was also trashed. But I think like things really turned for her. Well, the space adventure really didn't help.
I was going to say, so I think where people really turned on her was this Blue Origin flight, which was universally panned by almost
a highlight
everybody.
of my year, I must say.
I mean,
I'm so happy that happened.
I loved watching it. It was very entertaining. But, you know, her kissing the ground, it was so over the top. And I think it was in the same vein as the music video where she's really trying to push this like feminism and and then it kind of goes the other way as almost trying too hard to push that narrative.
I think she just really misread the room on that one. And we've all done it. Like I think she thought that she was going to be seen as this like feminist icon for going to space. So she had all these little bits prepared. The bit of like, kissing the ground, talking about being in love, holding up the daisy, which was for her daughter. So I feel like I shouldn't shit on her too much for that. But also being in space and announcing the set list for her lifetime tours when she held it to the camera.
Yeah, I mean, I actually loved the daisy. I thought the daisy was cute. But the holding up her set list really gave me the ick.
I mean, she's a marketing girl at heart. Like that was the important thing.
However, all of this criticism has been proven very, very wrong.
Yes, because all of that happened and the backlash was quite intense. But I feel like the real hurtful backlash for her came when she started doing her Lifetimes tour, which people thought was a rip-off of the Eras tour, which I also thought was unfair because it's not uncommon for musicians who have been, famous for so long and have had so many albums and hit songs. It's not uncommon for them at one stage of their career to do a greatest hits tour, which is what she was doing. But then videos from the concert started trending in a really bad way, showing her like her performance being bad, showing that people weren't coming to the concerts, people weren't engaging with her, and basically making this mockery of who she was. And everything about her was branded as a failure, from her album release to her tour. And recently it's come out that the tour wasn't as bad as people said. So she's already sold 1.1 million tickets and grossed more than $80 million in sales. This is her management has given all of this information to Billboard in this expose, kind of saying like, here you go, saying that the shows were like completely sold out, mostly across the board. And all of these money that she's made, which is over the estimate of what they thought she was going to make, doesn't even include her next stops in like Latin America, Europe and China, where she'll sell even more tickets. So basically they're saying after, like, you saw the online criticism, but what you didn't see was all the fans actually turning out and selling out all her concerts to see her.
I mean, it's really interesting. And like, that must be just so satisfying for her to be like, F you, look at this. So also it's gross. Let's say 80 million in ticket sales gross. So obviously she's got to pay everybody and do all of that stuff. But to have sold out all of those shows that she's basically only halfway through this Lifetimes tour, to have sold all of those tickets and people are enjoying it. And maybe at the beginning she was just trying to get the hang of it a little bit and some of the costumes may have been cheesy, but isn't that why people love going to these big spectacular concerts? Like, you want to see a spectacle. You want to be, entertained. That is the part of going to these big pop shows. I understand that there was that criticism. I'm not, again, I've said this before, but I'm not the hugest Katy Perry fan, although Raw has had a lot of airtime in my house at the moment because my 4-year-old is obsessed with it.
It's a good song.
It's a great song. And I now am finding myself singing it very, very loudly. But I mean, I think it is just a really big F you to people and a great redemption arc for her. And I'm happy for her, especially after, her separation with Orlando Bloom. She's able to kind of revel in this success a little bit. And it reminds me a lot of Rachel Zegler. So she's announced a one-night-only tour on October 5th at the London Palladium Theatre. It's a solo show. And this is off the back of the immense success as her role as Eva Perón in Evita. Now, critics absolutely adore her performance in this. The run is only till September 6th, so it's just about to finish. So I think after the success of that, they've gone, let's give her this one night only show. We don't have tickets on sale yet, but I'm sure that they will sell out. But it's amazing to see how after all of the backlash of Snow White, people really disliking the way that she handled the press, you know, her sarcasm, the way that the Snow White movie just was really panned, really affected her. But she's had this massive redemption arc. And I think it's because she's gone back to her theatre roots. This is where she shines. You know, she did West Side Story. She is an incredible singer. And showing people that she can perform on stage and do this, I think this is like the perfect redemption arc for her. And it's very, very similar to this Katy Perry redemption arc.
Yeah, that's what I thought was interesting when I was reading these reports about Katy Perry. And again, like it's obviously incredible that she's sold out, but for someone of her like stature, it shouldn't be a big headline. But also for someone like Rachel Zegler, like the fact that she's selling out all these shows is kind of in line with where her fame is. But what I thought was interesting when I was reading all these reports is that the reports of these two women when they were in the thick of like their like quote unquote downfalls, those headlines were just absolutely saturated. Like you couldn't go onto any entertainment site or news site without seeing articles about like the fall of Katy Perry. You couldn't go anywhere online without seeing articles about the downfall of Rachel Zegler and how much people hated her. And those two narratives this year burned so hot and bright for so long. Then when their success is at a really heightened place and some of those stories get disproven, those stories barely make the headlines, like these hidden stories. I think it also is very similar to Jennifer Lopez. Like when she announced her big, like, you know, kind of greatest hits tour, there was a lot of talk that the tickets were selling really badly. And then when she started shutting down shows, there were all these rumors that were sort of never challenged at the time that it was ticket sales that had closed the shows down. They're like, how embarrassing for this woman who's been famous for nearly 3 decades that she can't fill her concerts. And then it came out later is because she was in the throes of her divorce from Ben Affleck and the separation. And now she's been doing that tour in so many countries and all those tickets are sold out. But I don't think anyone's, again, saying that. Like, so the story still is that Jennifer Lopez is a failure, whereas statistically she's not.
I know, but I think people just love, and we know this, like you write articles every single day, you know what sells. And the ones that are like more clickbaity are going to
nothing does better.
Apples.
Nothing does better for traffic on not just our site, but any site. And you can just see how algorithms work. You can see which videos and TikToks and things get the most hits. Like nothing does better online than the story of a famous, previously beloved woman having some sort of a downfall or being in trouble or something happening to her. It's why the Blake Lively story has taken off in such a huge way this year as well. Like people would be less invested if that was a different actress. Like we love the downfall of a golden girl more than anything else.
Isn't that just the most sad reflection of our society?
Yeah.
Of the way that we like, and I mean, look, I'm guilty of this too. I don't like Blake Lively. I don't really like Katy Perry. I don't really like J-Lo. It infiltrates your mind and it's really hard to kind of remove yourself from that. But it's a really sad thing that we can't just be like, you know what, sometimes people make mistakes. Like with Rachel Zegler, she was 22 when she did Snow White. Maybe the way that she was trying to describe it and all of that was her trying to kind of be jokey and funny and it just didn't really translate. Maybe with Katy Perry, she did think she was doing something really wonderful.
But again, on the whole like downfall of a golden girl thing, like you're saying that you're like kind of fascinated by that. And like I am too. Like I'm not getting my high horse saying that I'm above it all. Like there is something like intoxicating and scandalous when you hear someone who was previously so beloved, who has previously done everything right, who has been at the top of the world. There is this kind of like almost like fun gossipy side when something bad happens to them or people are saying bad things. It's like, it's terrible to say, but for all of us, it's much more alluring than just like a male celebrity who's known to be a bit problematic or known to be badly behaved and a bad story comes out about them and you're like, well, that's fine. Like, I don't feel like I don't need to know that story because I suspected. But when something comes out about someone who previously felt untouchable, especially if they were a golden girl, it does feel more like a lyric to talk about. And that's
every
why.
time you say Golden Girls, I just keep thinking about Betty White. so I know what you're talking about. But I just keep getting like Betty White in my head every time you say Golden Girls. But I do love a redemption arc. Like if we can have the downfall to have that entertainment, let's give a little bit more like audience for the Up because I love the Up. I love that. I actually have been really obsessed with the Rachel Zegler redemption arc
I'm
for
loving
a long
this for
time.
Her. Because I actually just don't think she did anything wrong. And I say that maybe I'm the only person in the world who liked Snow White. I think the song that she sung in that movie is going to be my top Spotify song for the year. I listen to it all the time. But I just don't feel like the punishment fit the crime for what she did of saying that it was a bit weird that he kissed Snow White in the original movie. Because it was. Well, that was weird. We don't have to go back and pick apart history, but like the girl didn't say anything wrong.
We don't, but honestly, my biggest thing about this was I just think she wasn't media trained enough and I just think it came out wrong and people ran with it. But I'm really happy for her. Her singing in Evita is breathtaking, absolutely breathtaking. She has a phenomenal voice. So this particular one night show I think will 100% sell out.
Yes, I'm loving all of these redemption tours for all these women at the moment. I only wish they were being talked about more. That's my only wish.
We're talking about it, Laura. We're going to be the pioneers for the redemption arcs.